Now we're going to go into the meat and potatoes, the how to get out there and find these wholesale deals. And that's what we're going to cover quickly in this short training video from CD number 3, Driving for Dollars. Driving through the neighborhood, finding these wholesale deals. Now, one thing that you have to first of all understand, in my 9 years now of wholesaling deals, I have never found more profitable deals than from driving through the neighborhood. I've got them from other sources, but my most profitable deals have always come through driving through the neighborhood. And why is that, you may ask? That is because, as Ron LeGrand says, my mentor says, a lot of times that the house, no one knows that the houses are for sale, including the owner. Meaning that they don't have, or they haven't taken any active steps to selling the house until you call with your indication of interest to see if they're willing to sell. So that's why it's one of the most profitable. That has been the most profitable for me, is because you literally, in many, most cases, have no competition. That's the power of driving for dollars. But one thing that you have to make sure that you also understand is that you have to be diligent. You have to be patient. You have to be persistent, because you are going to have to look at quite few homes. You're going to have to look at a lot of homes. In order to do that, we have to, what they call, have a target market. We have to be able to identify these neighborhoods that are most likely candidates to find wholesale deals. Okay? Now, the way you do that, very simply, is by looking for those areas that have residents, people that live in the area, not so much the homeowner, but people who live in a concentrated area, and the demographics are as such. They have a high school diploma. They have a high school with some post-high school education, maybe 1 or 2 years of college, maybe a junior college, or they're skilled laborers. They're mechanics, or they're plumbers, or they're handyman. You know, they work with their hands. Or they're blue-collar workers. Okay? These are the type of areas that we want to target. So you go to your neighborhood and you identify those areas, and those areas are most likely candidate areas, target areas for wholesale deals. All right? Now, one thing we do want to stay away from is what we call, as wholesalers in our industry, we call the war zone. The war zone. War zones are areas within these target areas, or they might be outside the target areas, but war zones are areas where there's illegal activity actively done in the daytime, in broad daylight. Okay? Those areas you want to stay away from as beginners. You got to have highly concentrated, specialized knowledge to be able to go in and wholesale those type of properties, or properties in those areas. So you want to stay away from those war zones. Okay? So you might have to get educated on how to identify those areas that are war zones. But that's what you want to look for to identify if it's a war zone. If there's legal activity that's actively being done in the open, in broad daylight, because you can only imagine what their job, what they do if it's not in the daylight, if it's at night. Okay? So remember, our job is to find highly motivated individuals, highly motivated homeowners, highly motivated. Okay? I have a mantra that I say, and I teach my students: you cannot be the most motivated person in the transaction. It doesn't matter how bad you need a deal. It doesn't matter how long it's been since you did your last deal. You can never be the most motivated person in the transaction. Okay? So that's my philosophy. So once you identify these areas, you want to drive through the area. Okay? And you're looking for signs of neglect. Obvious signs of neglect. High grass. Newspapers in the driveway. The red tag on the electric meter. The water meter, gas meter has been removed. The mailbox is full. It's trash. Garbage can in the front of the house, or the side of the house, and it's running over. Or maybe the garbage can is still in the street. Okay? And all the other garbage cans are pulled in, letting you know that, somebody just put the garbage can out, the garbage man came and just never picked it up. So look for obvious tell signs. The blinds inside that you can see from the window is shut tight to where the light can't even come in. you know, or maybe they may still have the Christmas lights up and it's in the middle of June. So you want to use the combination. It has to be more than one of these indicators unless it's something obvious like a tag on the door or on the window from the city, okay, or something obvious like the electric, it has the red tag on it, meaning there's no electricity in the house. Something that's blatantly obvious like that, we know no one's living there without electricity, okay? Then you have your deferred maintenance items. The roof drastically needs repair. Shingles missing. You see a big dip in it. It might have a hole in it. Okay, it might have a hole inside the walls of the house, the exterior of the house. You know, light fixtures might be, you know, missing outside, or broken windows. Just deferred maintenance type of thing. The garage door is falling down or falling in. These are all signs of neglect, or what we're looking for, hopefully, a highly motivated seller, a highly motivated owner. What you want to do is you want to 1 through 25 on the left side of the paper. You want to do the address down the middle as you identify these properties. And to the right, you want to use initials. I've come up with some initials. HG, high grass. V, vacant. FB, fire burnt. Missing meters. Red tag, okay, for the electric. Things like this. COH, City of Houston, or city, whatever city you're in, if there's a city ordinance tag on the window. Okay? Things like that. What else? High grass, I mentioned that. Trash can. Newspaper. So put these notations on the right, far right of each address to the properties that fit the categories. That way, when you get ready to do your research, of course you'll start with the ones that have the most indications to the right. Okay? Those are the ones we want to start with first. Those are the ones that most likely they should be highly motivated. They should be highly motivated sellers, highly motivated owners. Now, if you remember, our last training program, we covered where to find hundreds and hundreds of these properties, these wholesale type properties that will make you thousands of dollars and put cash in your pocket right away. So we're going to go into now, once we have identified these properties, how do we find the owner? Finding the owner. That's the next most important part once we find and identify the properties. Now, there's several ways where we can get the name and address of the owners. One is the property tax rolls, okay? And now the other one is the appraisal district records. Both of these can be found online. So you want to go to your favorite search engine and put in your city or county property tax authority or appraisal district in your particular county, in most cases, or city or parish if you're in Louisiana. Now, my experience over the past 9 years, I like to use the appraisal district's information. Why? Because their estimated value of the property is is what they use to determine the different taxing prices or tax amount for the different taxing authorities, such as school and water, fire and police and things of that nature. They don't use the property tax information. They use the appraisal district appraisal number, property value number. So that's where I like to go. There you will find the person's address and name, who is responsible for paying the property taxes or paying the appraisal on the property. Okay? So you're going to have their name, their address, and the property address. Now what you want to look for and identify, you want to identify those properties that you do research based on the list that we covered in the last training video. You want to pull up the property address, okay, and look and find and target the ones where the owner's name and address is different from the property address. That's very, very important. Okay, once again, you want to identify those that the owner's address is different from the property address. That will tell you that these are absentee owners or landlord owners, and that's what we want to target. And then secondly, if they're different addresses and hopefully out of the city limit where the property is, out of the state where the property is, that's even better, because those are owners that most likely are not hands-on in the management of their property. So we want to target those. My system goes into full, complete detail on how you target these
and how you narrow down your list into the target properties that you want to focus on, you want to call. Now, once you identify the properties that the owner address is different from the seller address, different from the property address, you take that sheet that we gave you before, that we covered in the last video, and what I tell my students to do is on the far left-hand column, left of the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 25, you want to put D for different or S for same, meaning the address of the owner is different from the property address. That's very important, and we're going to cover that in future videos, and you'll see how that plays a role. Then what you want to do is you want to get the property information sheet. Let me get that for you and show you what that is. All right. In my course, you have this property information worksheet. Once you have your raw data, your sheet that you took out in the field and you wrote down these addresses, then you want to find the ones that are different and you want to put those here. You want to start filling out the top part of this information on each property. Each one of the ones that you found where the owner address is different from the seller address. From the property address. Okay? Then you want to fill out one of these property information sheets. Now we are narrowing down our list to these target properties. Remember, in my course I give you a formula: 100, 30, 10, and 1. Okay? You start off with 100 properties, you narrow it down to about 30 that you should be able to match the name with telephone numbers. We want to cover that in a minute. Then out of those 30, you should have 10 interested parties, and out of that 10, you should be able to get one deal. So once again, people always ask me, Darrell, how soon can I do a deal? You say 30 days. Yes, if you can go through that 100, 30, 10, 1 formula within the 30-day period, you will get your first deal and put thousands of dollars in your pocket within the first 30 days. Okay? So now we have this worksheet. Okay? Next you want to do is you want to get the telephone number for the individuals, for the homeowners. You do this once again on the internet. Now there's many databases. You can just put a search in there, phone book, yellow pages, white pages, whatever it is that you can do to identify these websites that provide you with the telephone numbers of individuals. Now I've used for years theultimates.com, www.theultimates.com, and you can go there and use their databases. But whatever you want to go to these websites where you plug in their name, okay, and their telephone number comes up. Now keep in mind, they will only come up, you will only be able to find them if they are in public records. They have not paid the telephone company to make their telephone number private. Okay, you can never find those no matter what database you use. So those are the only ones that'll come up. So you find the website, you put the seller's, the homeowner's name in there, first name, last name, and then you see what address comes up, and then you want to match the address that comes up on the website with the address that you found on the property tax record or the appraisal record. Okay? Then you have a match, and you fill out the form, and you write their telephone number here at the top with their form. Okay? You do that for everyone until you found all of them. Now some of them you won't find, and what I tell you to do in my course is put NL, no listing. Okay? This is very, very key and very important, and you want to do that. Now the other thing you want to do also is you want to find a website where it does address, reverse address. I like to use addresses.com. That's where if there is no listing, because many times the telephone number is not in the person's name that you're trying to find. It might be in someone else's name, the spouse's name, or someone else's name. So what you want to do is go to a reverse address website, addresses.com, the one I like to use, and you put in just the address. And then once again, if there's a number that's registered in the phone book, okay, that's attached to that house, it will come up. Now it might not be, in most cases, won't be the person name that you're looking for because it would have came up on the initial search. So what you want to do is you want to write down that person's name that the phone number is in, and the book, and the telephone number in your book, on your pad, on your sheet. Okay? And then you want to call those individuals and you want to see if they want to sell their property. Okay? Now, that's very, very important. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where we're getting into, the treasure hunting. We're getting into the crust of the treasure hunting, and you have to make sure you are diligent in looking for these names, looking for these properties, getting these addresses. As you can see, I'm out in the field. I'm at one of the properties that are in the neighborhood that I was driving through, and there's a lot of noise, and you can see in the background the condition of the house is the kind that we're looking for wholesaling properties. Okay, so remember, real estate investing is a contact sport. You have to get out in the field and you have to contact these owners.
Last video we covered how to find the owner. Now we're going to reach out to them and find their indication of motivation. Okay, so we want to, first of all, we want to take the pressure off, take the edge off, ladies and gentlemen. Have fun. Have fun. These are human beings. Have fun. We don't want to sound robotic. We want to have fun. Take your time. Yes, you will make mistakes. Yes, you will fumble over your words and make mistakes. That's human nature. You look at these videos, they're not professionally done. I stumble through words, but get through it. The objective is to get through it. And the more times you can get through it, the better you will become. Okay? The other point I want to tell you, another secret in contacting the owner, is don't try to rationalize or understand why they do what they do. Okay? Don't try to understand it. Believe me, from my years of experience, it won't make sense to us. Okay? But for whatever reason, they made the decision to do what it is that they wanted to do with the property up to this point. So please don't try to understand their rationale. Just ask questions, get the information, and move forward. Okay? Because it's a reason why their property is in the condition it's in, for us to write down the address, and it's a reason why they should be motivated. Like I said, don't try to understand why, because it won't make sense. I've seen situations where the house has fallen down and the person was very inflexible. They were very non-negotiable. And it would seem to me if their house is falling down or facing foreclosure, they should be very, very willing and negotiable. So don't try to understand why they do what they do. Just go with the flow, okay? And like I said before in my first video, that we have to understand we're treasure hunting, okay? We're digging for gold. We're digging for diamonds. We're searching for the pearls in the bottom of the ocean. We are treasure hunting, ladies and gentlemen. Now, we have narrowed it down to the specific area that the treasures, the gold, the diamond, the pearl should be found in. We covered that in the previous training video. So we're closing in on our treasure. Okay? The treasure is a highly, highly motivated seller, homeowner. As I said before, we have to be the least motivated in the transaction. We cannot be more motivated than the seller. All right? Now, so we got the telephone number that we learned how to get it from the last video. Now we want to contact the owner. The fastest and the most efficient way to do that is by telephone. Not by mail, not by internet, by telephone. Now, I know a lot of you guys might have a challenge with that, but let me just tell you, have fun, take it easy. We're all human beings, and call them on the phone. We have to call the owner on the phone. That's the only way we can close a deal within the first 30 days. We have to choose the most efficient and rapid process there is, and that is the telephone, reaching out to them on the phone. Now, the phone serves three distinct purposes. When we pick up the phone, we want to make sure we cover these three things. We want to make sure we contact the owner, okay? Not the brother, not the sister, not the cousin, not the adult child, the owner of the property. Number two, we want to gather information from them, okay? We want to find out how motivated they are. We want to find out if they want to sell it. We want to get some information that will help us determine their level of motivation. And number three, if everything goes right, we want to set the appointment to go and see the house. Now, when we get them on the phone, the basis to the telephone conversation is to build rapport. We have to build rapport instantly, immediately with the seller, with the owner of the property. Now, we do this in four ways. One, our voice tone has to mimic theirs. We have to have the same tone they have. If they have a high-pitched tone,
we need to have a high-pitched tone. If they have a deeper bass tone, we want to at least adjust it to kind of come close. We don't want to be artificial, but we do want to make sure that it's close to theirs. Number two, our voice pattern. Our voice pattern. This is very important when you're talking to older people, elderly people. Pattern. You mean you want to slow down your conversation. You want to slow down your flow of speech. You want to slow down your pattern. Another thing, we have to be a good listener. Okay? We have to make a good listener and listen to what they're telling us. Because if we don't, our response might indicate that we're not listening. That's very impersonal. So we want to make sure we listen. And when we get in more into the dialogue of what we tell the seller, you'll see the power of being a good listener. Fourthly, we want to be very personable. We don't want to seem like a robot. We want to be very, very personable. How's your day? How are you doing today? You know, things of that nature. We want to be very, very personable. Now, once we have them on the phone, once we've done the things that will help us build rapport, because one of the things that I've learned early in sales many, many years ago is that people do business with folks that they like. Okay? They do business with people that they like. And the only thing that they have to warm up to us to see if they like us is our voice, our tone, our pattern, if we're a good listener, and how personable we are. Do we sound like a robot, or do we sound like, you know, their neighbor next door, or their favorite grandchild, or somebody that they go bowling with, someone that they hang out with? So we want to sound personable, okay? Because remember, we call them out of the blue. So we have that obstacle to overcome. Who is this person that just called me out of the blue? You know, we might have caught them at a bad time during dinner, or they might have been watching Steinfeld or their favorite program. So that's why we have to make sure that we implement these secrets when we contact the owner. Part 2 of due diligence is, what is this ugly house worth? What is it worth? So the way we find out is we have to get what they call sales comps or sales comparison. And the best and the most accurate way to do that is by getting them from the MLS, the multiple listing services that realtors have access to. That's what appraisers use. That's what real estate agents use. So that's the most reliable that we can get. Now, the only way we can get that is if we become a realtor, and some of you will do that just to have this purpose, or you align yourself with a real estate agent, a realtor that will allow you to get that information directly, and that's what you want to do. Now, if you don't do that, that might take a long time to find those relationships, and we want to move fast and get a deal within the next 30 days. So time is of essence. So in the meantime, what you want to do is you want to go to Zillow.com, Zillow.com, and you'll be able to get and do your sales comps that way. All right. Now, one thing you have to understand, there's 4 parts to a wholesale deal. I call this the mathematical formula to a wholesale deal. 4 parts. You have your purchase price, the price that we're going to get the property from directly from the owner. Number 2 is the repair cost, and we're going to get in that in a second on how to get accurate repair costs, right down to the penny. Number 3, you want to know what the market value is, or what we're talking about right now, the sales comparison. Okay, the sales comparison or the market value. And lastly is our wholesale fee, how much we're gonna make from this deal. Now this is very, very important, the due diligence part that we're talking about here, because this is what's going to determine if it's truly a deal, and most importantly is going to help us determine what our wholesale fee is, how much we can make from this deal. So it's very, very critical that we learn how to do the due diligence, this part of the due diligence, very, very accurately. So we're going to do a sales comp to determine the after repair value, or ARV, or the market value. Okay. Now once we do that, we need to understand the critical parts in order to do a proper assessment of this property to get the proper value. There's certain things that we have to make sure that we do to make sure it's an apple for apple comparison. One, we want to make sure we find sales comps
that are within a 6-month period. Okay? We want to make sure within 6 months and as tight as possible within that 6-month period. Especially the way that the market is, it's changing quickly. Prices are dropping steadily. We have a lot of foreclosures in the market. So it's very critical that we don't go beyond 6 months, and we try to make it as close to today's date as possible. The second thing we want to do is make sure that the year that the houses the year that the house is built, that we're comparing with on the MLS or Zillow, is anywhere from 3 to 5 years of the house that we're looking at to purchase. Okay, so if the house that we're looking at was built in 1968, we want to go as far back as 1963 or less. 3 years to 5 years max on the year that the house that we're comparing is built to the house that we are looking to buy. Okay, the next thing is we want to make sure it has the same number of bath and bedrooms. This is very important because that's the living area. That's where we're gonna live. We're gonna occupy the bedrooms, and we're gonna occupy the bathrooms. So that's very critical that we compare the houses that have the same number of bath and the same number of bedrooms. And then we want to make sure that the exterior construction are similar or the same. We want to compare a brick house with a brick house, a house with siding with a house with siding, a house with stucco with a house with stucco. Okay, we want to make sure these things are apple for apple comparison, because if they're not, then you're getting into the science of appraising property, which requires a lot more skill than what we're talking about right here. So we want to make sure they're as close as possible. And then last but not least, we want to make sure it's within the 3 to 5 mile radius, meaning that the subject property that we're looking to buy is in the middle, and we're going 3 to 5 miles radius to find these apple for apple comparisons. Okay, so make sure you review this video, because this is very important. This will make or break a deal. The next area you need to be aware of in a mathematical formula is the repair cost. Repair cost. Now I'm going to share with you a few ways to do it right now. When I first got involved as a wholesaler in real estate investing back in 2000, one of my actual coaches here in Houston told me to do this. Darrell, go and get the inventory catalog from one of the major home repair stores. Home Depot, Lowe's, whichever one is in your area. They should be able to provide you with a catalog of all of their items that they sell. If they don't, then go online. You can find it there. And you want to look at, you know, the necessities to a home: the bathroom, the toilet, the sink, cabinets, things of that nature, and you get a good idea of exactly how much it would cost to repair those things. And you want to start making a mental note. The other thing you can do is get 3 repair bids from 3 different contractors. Okay, 3 different contractors, and that would help you determine how much it costs to repair that property. And as a beginner, you want to go out and meet them at the property, walk through with them, and ask questions, because that's a learning process for you. So that's really the most accurate way, is to get 3 bids on each area. Now, there's 4 main components of the structure of the property when you're doing due diligence. I call this the bones of the house. You have, first of all, the condition of the roof, the condition of the foundation of the house, being slab or on pillars. Okay, so we need to look at the foundation, the structural and the stability of the foundation of the house. Number 3 is electrical. Number 4 is plumbing. So those are the 4 areas that make up the bones of the house, and you want to get 3 bids from 3 separate contractors on these 4 different areas. So when you're doing your walkthrough and your assessment, those are 4 areas that you want to look at to make sure that the structure of the bones of the house is in good shape.